So, guys, the WNBA have been talking about their most viral moments of the years. Obviously, number five most viral moment was I don't remember this happening. The number six most viral moment was I don't remember. Sorry, Jesus, I don't remember this happening. I actually mean this when I say this. I covered this league for a living. I don't remember this happening. The only viral Kelsey Plum thing was when she too small Danger Reese and the Centel post about
She was on one leg, barely able to move, and what followed against Paige Bueckers wasn't just a game. It was a complete demolition. Fans are still stunned by the footage the WNBA actually chose to post, which says everything given their usual tendencies. This wasn't simply a win. It was a statement, a ruthless display of dominance that obliterated every preconceived idea about the league's so-called golden child. Any debate about who truly sits at the top didn't fade slowly. It ended right there on that court, in real time, with one player tearing up the script and rewriting it herself. The performance left no room for interpretation. It was historic, undeniable, and impossible to ignore.
Was Stud Buds. To be fair, the Stud Buds at All-Star Weekend is absolutely belongs high. But I'm actually shocked that, first of all, this was higher. This was more important. But the WNBA actually posted this. When Caitlin Clark and Paige Bueckers matched up. This was an absolute... Like, this was a game where if you wanted to argue that Paige Bueckers was better than Caitlin Clark, you just couldn't anymore. This was like Caitlin was on one leg and she was taking the piss. She stole the ball 4 times off Paige. She blocked JJ Quinterly.
Picture this. A visibly hobbled player still ripping the ball away 4 times from her direct matchup, the highly touted rival phenom. Caitlin Clark wasn't merely competing. She was dissecting the game in real time. Paige Bueckers was consistently outplayed, her moves anticipated before they even happened. This wasn't just about points on the board. It was a clinic in defensive pressure, anticipation, and elite basketball IQ. The footage, unexpectedly put on display, revealed a level of control and strategic dominance rarely seen, stunning analysts and leaving fans in shock who had expected anything but such a one-sided outcome.
You just couldn't anymore. This was like Caitlin was on one leg and she was taking the piss. She stole the ball 4 times off Paige. She blocked JJ Quinterly, screamed in her face, grabbed the ball and just looked up and launched a full court pass inch perfect to Sophie Cunningham. She, in fairness, Paige Bueckers caught her in the air and she went down looking like she had hurt herself on that one. Caitlin's stats wise, she had 13 assists in like 20 something minutes. She played 10 minutes less than Paige, so 13 assists. Paige Bueckers was the absolute, she was, as we call her at times.
The highlights tell the story without exaggeration. Clark blocked JJ Quinterly, erupted with intensity right in her face, then instantly secured the ball and fired a flawless full-court pass to Sophie Cunningham. That sequence wasn't just a highlight, it was a declaration. Total command, raw emotion, elite skill, and surgical vision collided in one unforgettable moment. It captured the essence of the entire game, proving that even while injured, Clark was operating on a different level altogether, leaving everyone asking the same question. How was this even possible?
13 assists in like 20 something minutes. She played 10 minutes less than Paige, so 13 assists. Paige Bueckers was the absolute, she was, as we call her at times last season, she was the garbage time demon. She was the demon of garbage time last year. When it was a blowout, Paige Bueckers started cooking. When it was game over, Paige Bueckers started cooking at the end of that game to get her 20-something points. But it was like by the time Caitlin Clark had checked out of the game, Caitlin Clark had more points. I'm pretty sure it was more points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks, and less turnovers. Like, it was genuinely crazy. It was crazy. It was.
Despite clearly getting banged up when Paige Bueckers caught her midair, Caitlin Clark never backed off for a second. She went on to dish out 13 assists in roughly 20-something minutes, playing nearly 10 fewer minutes than Paige, and still completely controlled the game. This wasn't a fair fight or a shared spotlight. It was a clinic in efficiency. Every touch mattered. Every possession turned into something productive. While others needed time and volume, Clark needed neither. The gap in impact, especially with limited minutes and a compromised body, was impossible to ignore and almost hard to believe. It wasn't just impressive, it was overwhelming.
Real rival in WNBA, CC versus Caitlin. Caitlin had Paige in hell that game, read her like a book. The real rivalry, Paige greater than Angel, without the weird underlying animosity between players. I'm just putting it out there. I think Paige is more talented than Angel Reese. I think Angel was better. Angel has been better as a WNBA player. I think Angel as a rookie was better than Paige as a rookie. I think Angel literally dragged the Chicago Sky to multiple wins as a rookie. I think the Vegas win, she literally got 2 putbacks to win that game, even though she was terrible up to that point. The New York Liberty win, Angel willed them to the win. There were a couple of games where Angel Reese...
Paige Bueckers, by contrast, leaned into a reputation she picked up last season, the so-called garbage time demon. Her scoring surge came only after the game had already broken open, when the pressure was gone and the result was no longer in doubt. This matchup followed the same pattern. Yes, Paige finished with around 20 points, but most of that production arrived after Caitlin Clark had already checked out and the game was effectively decided. That distinction matters. One player dictated the outcome when it counted, the other filled the stat sheet when it didn't. The film makes it impossible to ignore the gap in real impact.
Certainly a memorable game. Coming in at number 7, it was a lot higher. To be fair, if it was number 7, show the highlights. Paige is so much better based on what? If you were talking about this game, I just remember how the game was summarized in one photo. Yeah. How the game summarized in one photo. That was basically it. The rivalry the league wants. They have grown, bless their hearts. Aaliyah Boston, AZ Foot, 4 steals and 13 assists on one leg. Like, she stripped Paige 4 times. And that was the funniest thing, is everyone was talking about turnovers. I'm like, Paige had more turnovers than Caitlin that game. Because Paige...
The numbers from that legendary clash tell an even more damning story. Clark finished with more points, more rebounds, more assists, more steals, and more blocks, all while committing fewer turnovers than Paige Bueckers. It was a complete statistical sweep, dominance across every measurable category on the floor. For any analyst or fan still trying to argue that Paige was better than Caitlin, this game erased that debate entirely. The data is cold, clear, and unforgiving. There is no room left for interpretation. It was a masterclass performance that cemented one player's superiority beyond any shadow of a doubt and permanently rewrote the narrative.
It's 20 times better than me, face the league. I don't think Paige Bueckers thinks that. And by the way, one thing I like is that you're starting to see Paige become Paige again, by the way. Like, if you saw this, for lack of a better word, like the swag and freedom that Paige played with in high school, and then that was kind of gone out of her at UConn. And like, I think we're seeing a little bit more Paige. We're seeing a little bit more her being Paige. And if Paige is Paige and Paige fixes the mentality issues that she's had over the last 2 years, I don't mean these in mentality issues. Mentality issues is in like the mentality of, oh, I'm just going to, I just want to fit in and not.
What made this clip even more unbelievable is that the WNBA itself chose to post it. Given the league's long-standing perception of sidelining Caitlin Clark while positioning Paige Bueckers as the face of the future, that decision was shocking. It felt completely out of character. But the performance was so overwhelming, so impossible to downplay, that ignoring it simply wasn't an option. Even though it disrupted the usual narrative, the league had no choice but to acknowledge it. Clark's dominance forced its way into the spotlight, cutting through bias and agenda, and demanding recognition on pure merit alone.
So it's going to happen, but I'm still shocked. I'm actually considering what the WNBA have been doing, considering their mentality towards Caitlin Clark as a league, and them really wanting to push Paige Bueckers to the face, even though Paige Bueckers, nobody watches Paige Bueckers play basketball. And that's just the unfortunate thing, is that in fairness to Paige Bueckers is an unbelievable social media following. She actually does. She's an unbelievable social media following. The TikTok people love making their edits of Paige Bueckers because they have these weird parasocial relationships with her and AZ Foot. They're like K-pop stans, but they don't actually watch basketball. But anyway, yeah, I'll see you guys.
The footage from that game told a story so clear it didn't need commentary. Even limited physically, Caitlin Clark completely controlled the matchup, exposing the gap in impact, mentality, and influence. While Paige Bueckers eventually accumulated points late, much of it came after the outcome was already decided, reinforcing the perception that Clark dictated the game when it mattered most. Clark finished with more points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks while committing fewer turnovers, a statistical sweep that erased debate and redefined the rivalry in one night. She wasn't hunting shots, she was orchestrating, defending, facilitating, reading the floor 2 steps ahead, and asserting command without forcing the spotlight. The now iconic image from that game captured everything: composure versus hesitation, control versus reaction. That the WNBA itself amplified the moment only underscored how undeniable the performance was, even if it conflicted with preferred narratives. This wasn't about hype or popularity, social media numbers or branding. It was about who bends the game to their will. That night, Clark didn't just win. She shattered assumptions, flipped hierarchies, and delivered a defining performance that will echo long after the highlights fade.